Ooh, I'm live. I'm live. Is my mic on? Yes. Okay, my mic is on and my lighting's pretty good. So this is a solid. This is a solid. This is why you go live at least a minute or so before you let everybody know they're coming. Well, a little before everybody's supposed to show up. You know what I'm saying? It's like a party. And you just want to be ready. Just want to be ready for the folks when they come. I am, it appears, one person is at least watching. Hey, one person that's watching, say something to me in the chat. I don't know who you are. So this is my first, wait, look, let me go close the door. See, it's this kind of stuff. It's this kind of stuff. Very good. So the kids are out on a field trip. Yeah, I mean, they're really just in the car driving around, but it's a field trip nonetheless. It is 2:59, so we're not really scheduled to get started as a live yet, but I'll be here and hopefully somebody will log in and learn something. Log in? I don't know. What is that? Watch me while I'm going live and learn something? Or at least on the replay. Because once it's recorded and it's out here. That's the thing, right? With videos on the internet. All right, it is 3 o'clock. This is Christian Family, and as promised, Christian Family Esquire. And as promised, I am going live on YouTube at 3 o'clock to talk about co-parenting during COVID-19. Right now, many of us are directly experiencing the effects of COVID-19. I know I am, and I can tell you that this pandemic has me in such a place of gratitude. I can't even explain it. A lot of people don't know my living situation, which is that both of my parents live with me. My mom and my dad, they've been divorced for 35 years. And I have 3 young children, ages 2, 5, and 7. And so we're all here together. And the gratitude in my heart that I'm feeling about my mother being here and really just like running with this whole homeschool thing, like the Manning Montessori is up and running. And that's why on Friday afternoon, they're going on a field trip. So they're in the car and maybe taking a walk through a metro park or something, maybe just randomly driving around the city, but they left the house, So anyway, they're on a field trip. But the gratitude that I'm experiencing because of this, how privileged I'm feeling to have both of my parents here to help me with these kids. And like, if my mother wasn't here, real talk, me and those kids would be in pajamas watching TV all day. At the end of a couple of months, they'd be dumb and the house would be foreclosed on, right? Like, it could be bad here. It could be bad, but instead, I am blessed and privileged and so grateful to have my mother here to kind of be running this school thing, and for my dad to be here to give her a break, right? Between the two of us when she's doing this. And I even have a little sister who was here for a little bit helping. So grateful for it. So anyway, that was kind of the point of that, and why they're not here right now. And I am also co-parenting, and then with their father, who, this was my second divorce, which isn't really key to this story, but I'm also co-parenting with their dad. And so there was this whole major kind of dilemma, like what's the right thing to do on the weekend before babysitter, and he takes him back to school on Monday. which for me ends up really being a break because it means I don't have to get them from school on Friday. And then I don't see them till the end of the day on Monday. So for me, it's really like a 3-day breaks that span away from the kids, you know. He also gets Wednesday overnight. So to me, I feel like the kids are away a lot because when they're gone on Wednesday overnight, same kind of thing. I don't have to get them from school. I don't see them till the end of the day on Thursday. It's like a 24-hour break. So now it's the weekend before they tell us about the COVID. The kids have already been home for 7 days, right? They're not going to school. They're not going anywhere. And there was conversation about, well, do you send them to their dad's house for his parenting time? Like there was conversation there because my father is immunocompromised. He's on dialysis. And so we have been vigilant around here. Just to try not to bring it into the house, you know, like I would probably survive, but not my dad. And I don't want that, you know, I don't want that. So that being said, there was some conversation on the table, but I was like, no, at the same time, the only way I can continue to have the great life that I have here sometimes, that I have here, not sometimes, is the way I can keep having the great life that I have here is that the kids go away sometimes. Sometimes they gotta go. We need a break from those kids for a couple of days. I mean, that's how, you know what I'm saying? That's how my parents recoup. That's how I recoup. That's how we, you know what I'm saying? That's how we do the thing. So it was like, nah, we'll take our chances. Send the kids. Send the kids. It's this weekend. Send the kids. We did, however, come to a compromise and decide that on Wednesday overnight, we would skip the Wednesday overnight day. You're gonna get them sometime between 4:30 and 6. Maybe after dinner, maybe not, you know, maybe before dinner, maybe not. And then you're gonna bring them back first thing in the morning the next day. Like that ain't no break. I don't need that. We don't need to go back and forth for that kind of thing. And their father understood, and it worked out just the way that it should work out. It'll be his weekend again right before the April the 6th date, the Monday when, you know, we're allowed to go back to normal. I'm probably going to send them that weekend. Like at that point, they would have been here every day, nonstop for 14 days. You know what I'm saying? It'll be time for them to go and visit someplace else. So that's it. That's all there is to say there. That did remind me, though, of a conversation I had with my parents on the podcast. Have you heard about this? The podcast? Asshole Parents. You can find it on Spotify, Google Podcasts. I'm definitely in those 2 places. So you can catch me in those 2 places. I want to say in Stitcher. I think I'm also and I'm on Stitcher with Asshole Parents. So Asshole Parents became its own thing based off of this relationship between me and my parents and the fact that both of the parents live here, even though they've been divorced for over 35 years. And what I've learned from living with them is they're very similar in a way that's kind of weird, you know, which is kind of fun. And you can kind of hear that dynamic in the podcast because I did one interview with him, one interview with her, and one interview with 2 of them together. And then there's kind of a short, maybe 15-minute one that's just me introducing the whole thing. Now, there's absolutely no editing, no production quality at all. But they're out there and they could very well be interesting to you. I mean, they're funny to me. And so, you know, hopefully you'll laugh at the right places. We'll see. Also, if you get into the asshole parents, meaning you recognize that a lot of the traits of who you are, you picked up from your parents, or maybe you had a parent who, was an asshole, like a person you don't love, you don't want to be around, but they just had some ways about them. And I would suggest that that's probably most people's parents. So in some of the ways that we transition from that, there'll also be some conversations about co-parenting with an asshole, because I know about that too. So anyway, if any of those topics interest you, listen to the podcast and let me know if you'd be interested in being a guest, because right now it's, I don't know, kind of a pet project. I mean, you know, people aren't really just like going in droves listening to it. And so it's just fun for me to do and interview people and have these kind of conversations to help other people get insight into how you become who you are based on who your parents are. So I think that's kind of the message there, and that there's an opportunity for us, once we've really defined the problem, to set up a goal and then really get a solution or a change in what's happening. Ooh, and that was the perfect segue into what we're actually talking about today, which is co-parenting during COVID-19. I did let you in a little bit on a way that my parenting schedule with my co-parent was modified by agreement, meaning he agreed to miss his middle days, his middle of the week visitation. It was an agreement that was made between us. And so that's one of the ways that we're managing co-parenting during COVID-19. So the question across the board, I mean, from people, no matter what city, no matter what state, is, oh my gosh, what about my parenting plan with this COVID-19? And I'm like, what do you mean? What about your parenting plan with this COVID-19? Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Even though the children are not in school, you still follow the school schedule. Like in my situation, this week would have been spring break. Now, we homeschooled the kids through spring break because it was better to keep the momentum of the schedule. But my daughter did notice on Thursday, which I thought was funny, like, isn't this spring break? But that's an aside. So anyway, spring break. Per our visitation schedule, I have spring break. And so, do you know what I'm saying? Like things just, it goes that way. If it had been his spring break, it still would have been spring break and the kids would have needed to have gone over there for the week. You know, my dumb luck. You can reach an agreement with your co-parent. I mean, it really is no more complicated than that. And that being said, co-parenting during COVID-19 is the same as co-parenting anytime. It's the same as co-parenting anytime. Yeah. Either you and the co-parent are able to get along and put the, either you're able to get along, right? Put the best interests of the child in front of you and make it happen, work together, or you can't. Yay, that's the best for you. That's the best for the kids. And it will save you a lot of money and headache and stress. And I know some of you are thinking, yeah, I would like to get along with my co-parent, but I can't because that person is a fool. And I understand that. And sometimes that is actually your situation. And we'll talk about that today too, right? So we'll talk about just ways to make it work. And we'll talk about ways to make it work. How about that? So the ideal situation really is to reach an agreement. That's always the ideal situation. Believe it or not, there are people all over the place, especially, well, it would have to be actually unmarried parents, right? So if you're unmarried, parents are going into it who never have to go to court for anything. I got a cousin, as a matter of fact. I mean, her daughter right now is an adult, like she's like 23. Her and the child's father never, ever had to go to court for anything at any time. He was her father, right? My cousin knew that about him, and he got to be a full-time parent. There were no questions. They didn't need paperwork. They didn't have to go to court to figure that out. She never put him on child support. There was no thing, to my understanding, that she needed and asked him for that, he couldn't provide or that he didn't, provide. He came through. He did what he was supposed to do. Lots of people never go to court, and that is great news. An even bigger number of people, I would say, go to court one time and never have to go back. And that really would be my ideal situation, of course, because I am a lawyer. I believe in having that kind of stuff written down because maybe things are going really good for like 12 years and then boom, things change, right? And now we're no longer agreeing. Once you're no longer agreeing, that's when you have to have the document. This is when you need the parenting plan because now we no longer a custody agreement that says how we're going to handle the children. It says where the kids are going to live, where they're going to go to school, how we're going to make decisions. It says a lot of things. Or let me clarify. It can say a lot of things. A lot of people have a raggedy parenting plan, and we'll talk some more about that later too. So that's why you need the parenting plan, right? The reason you need the parenting plan is for times when you do not agree. So some of you have a parenting plan, right? And it's just not working. It's not working. I've got this plan, but somehow it doesn't work. There keep being these things that come up that either the plan doesn't address. These things come up and the other parent just is like, whatever. They don't care. Right? Things that come up. Yeah, I guess those are the two things, right? Things that come up and the plan doesn't address them. Things that come up and the plan does address them, but it no longer fits what was happening. This happens a lot. So the people have the plan and life changed, like when they wrote the plan. So here's a good one. Yeah, when they wrote the plan, the mom and the dad lived right next to each other, right? Like literally next to each other, which I thought was kind of interesting. But it was very easy for the kids to go back and forth, right? From next door to next door. And this was key because one of the kids was actually really disabled, but it was next door to next door. So everything was cool. But then one of them moved away. And so now this is a very different set of facts, right? This plan, the way it's written, which is like Monday here, Tuesday here, Wednesday here, Thursday here, no longer fits the situation. When something like that happens, you got two options. Sometimes the people are just able to flow with it, right? You just do the thing that happens because, like I said, you can always agree. It's when you don't agree, you go back to the plan. But what if you don't agree and the plan does not work? You got no choice but to go back to court, right? Sometimes you got to go and get a new document. It just doesn't work because the way things are now and the way things were at the time you wrote the plan have changed too much. And the third way, which I kind of alluded to, is that it doesn't matter what that document says. Your other parent really is a jerk. I mean, they're a jerk. They're out there, right? It's narcissists. And the issue is there's no real solution for a person being a jerk. Like the courts can't legislate around that. Like it's not a crime to be an asshole. You know what I'm saying? It's not a crime. You're allowed to do that. If that's who you are, be that person. Sorry, right? So if that's your set of facts, that's your set of facts, right? You just gotta kind of roll with the punches, right? This is the person that you had kids with. And that is not a judgment. That is not a judgment, I promise you. I am living it, okay? I did not really fully introduce myself. I just started ranting. The assumption is that if you're watching my live, you know who I am. But I am Christian Family Esquire. I am an adult child of divorce, twice divorce lawyer for nearly 20 years. I am now the parent of children of divorce, and as stated, my divorced parents live with me. I am for real an authority on the topic of divorce. Wrapped up in divorce is parenting, right? Co-parenting, because children are a part of the marriage, which means they're a part of the divorce, and their life changes and your ability to parent them changes. At this point, you're unmarried people parenting of the child. It's the same as people who were never married, right? Parenting a child, which is why I say to people, if you're going to court to fight for custody, it's a divorce. It's just a divorce without a marriage. There are marriages without kids. A marriage with kids and no assets is just a custody fight. It's a custody fight with a marriage, right? A custody fight is the divorce without a marriage. I hope that makes sense, but that's the point of it. So anyway, you're in the same position. And so instead of just the covenants and the sanctity of marriage being what's governing the parental relationship, you now need a document, right? Something to identify whose rights are whose rights. This is pretty good. I did lose my train of thought there. No, I started talking about who I was, right? There you go. And the fact that I'm living this, and I'm really living it. My parent and I have been divorced officially since April of 2019. So it's coming up on a year. He's been out of the house since August of 2018. Which is right around the time of my name change hearing. I do have a Facebook Live on that, and you can see me on Facebook. I'm Christian Family on my personal page, but on my business page, I'm Divorce Answer, and I'm pretty confident that it's there. The name change story, which is it's a good story. So you see it all the way through. I also cover my divorce story pretty in depth, and my stand about divorce being an opportunity, and my TED Talk, which is Real Talk About Divorce. And you can find that on YouTube or on the TED website, but it's Real Talk About Divorce, and it's me, Christian Family. I could definitely use some more views on that, so definitely check it out. But the point is this. The separation from him was not nice. It was scary and volatile, and I had to get a protection order to stop him from just showing up at the house and threatening me in a way that, just made me uncomfortable. But still, we have children together. And so I'm having to live this. A lot of advice that I would have given people in the past about how you operate with a co-parent, I am being forced to live with. Like, when do you send the child? When, even if you know that the other parent is over there being about co-parenting during COVID-19. That was the moral to the story. So there's really three things that I want to cover in today's live, which is about parenting plans, really, because that's the issue on the table. Right now, there is some kind of a parenting plan in place. And as we said, it's either working, and there's a good chance that you're not watching this video right now. If it's not working, is it not working because, like I said, it no longer fits the facts that are your life? Is it not working because it simply does not have enough detail in it? Or is it not working because the other parent refuses to follow it? If it's not working because the other parent is refusing to follow it, meaning if the other parent was doing the right thing, this would be a good plan, then what you're looking at then is what we call a contempt, right? You want to go to the court and you want to enforce the order. You want to have the other parent found in contempt for not following this perfectly good court order that's been written right here. Usually when people hear about contempt, it's in the vein of child support. You hear about people who aren't paying child support being held in contempt. Contempt is a quasi-criminal thing, in that some of the sanction can actually be jail time. There's financial sanctions, jail time. With parenting arrangements, usually at least the first line of defense is to make up any parenting time that was improperly missed. And then that's a pointer, right? So if it's COVID-19 and the one parent is really feeling like, oh my God, I can't let the child out of the house, which was my situation where I said to the father, like, let's let them skip the Wednesdays. The negotiation could have very well be, okay, well, how am I going to make up those Wednesdays? It's makeup time. And that would have been a cool conversation for us to have. Okay, no, you're right. Since you're missing your 2 Wednesdays this week, when we come out of this thing, you can have also the Thursday until your Wednesdays are made up, right? So then you'll have Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday until your right days are made up. That's a way to reach an agreement. That's a way to do whatever's best for the kid. This really came up, and the impetus actually for this entire workshop, is this a workshop? Right? For this entire live was a client who reached out just really kind of in a panic because it was time for his parenting time. And he has every right to be picking up his child, right? Because this is what the plan says, it's time for his parenting child time. But the mom, who's now his ex-wife, and the child were in a different city. Not like a, a distance you can't get to, you know what I mean? Like maybe 90 minutes away, that kind of thing, closer to her relatives. And so like they were homebounding. Oh my God. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you know, home quarantining together in some place that was not like right here. And so she was trying to say, hey, I don't want to bring him to you. You know, why don't you skip this parenting time? And he was kind of like, why are you trying to keep my boy from me? You know, which is right, his right to feel that way. And so that was kind of the thing, like, how do you handle this? And the reality is, it is his time with the kid. And the paper says he should have the kid. And unless you agree to something different, then he gets to have the kid. And this is what we talk about with the contempt. Hey, I have an order here. And it's a perfectly good order. And it would be fine, except this other parent is refusing to follow it. Got it? So then the situation there would be a contempt or even a show cause in some jurisdictions. But you want to bring the person to court and have the court say to them, hey, you did the wrong thing, follow this, or you're going to get it. That's, you know, what you're looking for with a contempt. And that would be the setup, right? So that's one possible outcome. Hey, it's my time with the kid. Mom, hey, I'm not bringing them to you. It's COVID-19, right? We homebound up in here. I don't care what you want. What you gonna do, daddy? What you gonna do, right? So at that point, because it's not a criminal case, you can't call the police and have them show up at the door and, you know, strong arm her into giving up the kid. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not speaking for all officers, but I am under the impression there are officers who will strongly suggest, you know, that the child go, blah, blah, blah. They might negotiate on your behalf, but they can't like arrest her or the other parent for not giving the kid up, right? It's not a criminal matter. It's a civil matter. That's the educational piece there. So what you do then is you have to take it to the court that wrote the order and ask them to enforce, right? So then you go into the judge and say, listen, she should have gave me that kid during COVID-19 and she didn't do it. I want my time back. Because really, that's all you can be trying to get is your time back. So the suggestion is, well, why don't the two of you work something out together, work out some kind of an agreement where you can have some makeup time for the time that you're going to miss. And how can we really work on your relationship with your son virtually? And while I do know that there's something to be said for physical touch and actual hugs, there's a lot of connection that can be made just making eye contact. And that's something we can do over the computer together. We can still have experiences together. And so that's something also that we're learning during COVID-19. So try to work something out with the other parent and care about your child. Try to work something out so that you continue to stay in communication with them while this is happening. I'm always reminded of our people who are in the military. A lot of them have children. They're still full parents. And sometimes they're out of the country for weeks and months at a time. Got it? Oh my gosh. Oh, right. Which also reminds me of a cautionary tale. I don't know if I should jump that one in here right now. I don't think so. So that was the one thing, is either your plan's working or your plan's not working, right? And so if your plan is not working, specifically because the other person isn't following it, right, what you're looking for is a contempt. If it's the other two things that I described, the plan isn't working because there's not enough information, or the plan isn't working because things have changed, then what you want is a modification. You want to go and say to the court and say, hey, we need a new plan. And the facts are still the same. Ideally, you'd reach an agreement. Hey, we need more details in here. Or, hey, this thing needs to change, right? Because our child was 2 when this happened, and now they're 12 and things are different. Let's talk about it. Like this schedule as it's going isn't working anymore. Let's modify. That's one thing. But if you can't reach the agreement, because that happens, then you have to go to court now to try to get the modification. So it's your opportunity now to go to court and try to get the modification. And so the rest of what we talk about will be about these modifications. So if you're in a place right now, right, it's COVID-19, you're co-parenting at COVID-19, and you have realized finally, like, you're fed up, you know what, this freaking plan doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Plan doesn't work. Clearly, I can't reach an agreement with this other person, or I wouldn't be mad enough, right, possibly to be watching this video and definitely to be thinking about going to court, right? So I'm willing to say agreements off the table if we made it that far. So now I'm frustrated, right? Can't agree with this person. we're going to go to court. I'm going to need to go to court and get some kind of a modification, right? Got to go to court and get this thing so it can be different. So now, if that's really the goal, there are three things that have to happen, right? First, we have to define what the actual problem is. Like, what is this plan? What's the problem this plan is supposed to fix, right? That's number one. What is the problem that this plan is supposed to fix? Okay. The second is to set a goal for the outcome. Set a goal for the outcome. So one, right? What problem is this plan supposed to fix? Two, what is the goal? So like, what would it look like, right, when it's over? Because clearly I want it to look different than it looks right now, right? What would this look like? What is the goal when it's over? And then the third step, of course, is to actually get this onto paper, written up in a way that makes legal sense, that a judge would sign off on and make an order of court. So those are the three steps. So number one, defining the problem. Like, what is the problem that this plan is actually supposed to be solving? Is it a problem that can be solved? Let's talk about it. Do you know why good is better than perfect? Do you? Good is better than perfect because good actually exists in reality. Perfect does not. There are other things that live in fantasy land. You know, the Easter Bunny, right? Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy. These are things that don't really exist. And then on the other side, we have reality, right? Taxes, right? Other things that are reality. You know, anytime you're saying to yourself, if only, right? I wish. These are things that suggest what you want is something different than what's actually happening in reality. And that means you're operating in fantasy. And that is like a key. Like, this happens, like, technically inside of these co-parenting relationships where really what you want is not a different set of facts or a different set of terms in the plan. What you want is for the other person to be different. So, scenario, it's his turn. He's supposed to bring the kids back on Sundays at 6 o'clock. He's supposed to pick up on Friday at 6 o'clock. He is notoriously late. He's always been late. So if he's supposed to pick up at 6, he's not going to get there till 7, right? If he's supposed to bring them back at 6, he's not going to get there till 7, right? This is just something you know. And so maybe part of you is thinking, you know what, I'm going to go get that plan changed till, let's say, at 7 o'clock, right? Or, you know what, I'm going to go to court and he needs to be held in contempt because he should be here at 6. He's not getting here till 7. Or the plan says I only have to wait 30 minutes for him. And so now, since he's an hour late, I'm not giving him the kids at all. And I promise you, not a single one of those is really going to give you the satisfaction that you're looking for. So you take them to court to get them held in contempt for always being an hour late. To what end? You're going to spend money, you're going to spend time, you're going to spend stress for the court to say to him what? Stop being late? Right? I'm going to go to court and I'm going to fight and make it change to another time. Since he can't be there till 7, then he should pick up the next morning or something like that, you know? So is your plan to limit his time with his child because he's late? It's the same kind of thing, right? Because he's late, you're not going to let the kid go because he's late. I'm willing to bet if he's late now, he was late then. He's always been late. He's not late now all of a sudden messing with you. That's a character trait. That's who he is. And it's the goal is to make this work. Because I'm willing to bet that your kid doesn't care that their daddy is an hour late. They just want to go. They just want to go. And it will make them sad if you don't let them go with their father because he couldn't follow the letter of the plan when you know he's the kind of person that's always running late. The better plan would be to either A, have a plan where maybe it's not his job to pick up, but it's your job to drop off. That way, you definitely know what time the kid is going to get there because you were in charge of that. That's one thing. Another thing you can do is just make sure you don't set anything up where, your situation is, I got to leave the house at 6:15. And when he don't pick the kid up at 6, that messes me all up. I'm late for work. My whole thing is messed up. Why would you set yourself up like that? Don't set yourself up to be dependent on this person being different than who they really are. I hope that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? So the problem here that you're trying to solve is you want the person to be a different person. The plan can't solve that kind of problem. It's not the kind of problem plan can solve. So that's step number 1. Is the problem this plan is trying to solve an actual problem in reality that can be solved? Right? Is it? Yeah, that's step number 1. Step number 2 is to really make a decision on what is the goal. So now we've determined it is a real life problem, right? Then the question is, what is the goal? We want to move from where to where, right? If you are currently in some kind of co-parenting relationship, you are one of 4 people, right? You are a shared parent, or you have joint custody, meaning both you and the child's other parent have, equal rights to decision making and things like that. Shared parenting, joint custody. So you're one of these people. You have sole custody. If you have sole custody, then you don't have to consult with the other person to make decisions about them. Then the other person there would be the non-custodial parent. And if you're the non-custodial parent, then you're the parent who, right, you're the other parent. I don't know. How do you explain that? You're the non-custodial parent. I guess you'd be the weekend parent, right? Is that the term for that? Then you're that person. Now, I don't know why this non-custodial parent or weekend dad thing is getting such a bad rap. I do not fully understand it. Me and my dad touch on this in our Asshole Parents podcast in our conversation together, because he was a weekend dad. My mom had sole custody. I mean, it was a different time. That's kind of how it went down. And I feel extremely close to him. He lived here before my mom did. There's nothing about me and my dad's relationship that is that is not strong because he was a quote unquote weekend dad. No, he didn't get me ready for school. He didn't help me with my homework. He didn't do that kind of heavy lifting, taking me to doctor appointments. What he did do was keep me all the time on the weekends. But he had me in the summer. He was at my school events. He was there for me when I needed him. He was respectful to my mother. He did these things. And we have an excellent relationship because I'm telling you, it's not about how much time you spend with your child. It's not about that. It really is about relationship. And that is a key thing. And so that's this whole thing with the non-custodial parents and the weekend dads. And if I'm not helping with the homework and just, then somehow they feel like they're not getting equal rights. But the reality is, in most places, the non-custodial parents do really, you have the rights. It's not like you're banned from going to the school. Or anyway, that's not the point. So blah, blah, blah. You're one of those 3 people. I think I started that with saying you're one of 4 people. And I don't, that's not true, right? Either you're a shared parent, you're a custodial parent, or you're a non-custodial parent. I don't know. So anyway, that's it. At the end of this parenting plan modification, as we were talking about, when you go to court and you decide, hey, I want the different plan, right? What do you want that to look like? Will it still be shared parenting? Like a shared parenting now to still be shared parenting? Is that a change you're looking to not make? Is it shared parenting now and now you want sole custody? Is it you have sole custody now and you want it to be shared parenting? Is it you're the non-custodial parent and you want to be the custodial parent, or the non-custodial parent and you want to go to shared parenting? I hope you understand what I'm saying, right? Like, is that part of the goal? I'm looking to shift this from here to there, right? Which is an important question, and a lot is involved with that. Other things, are you interested in maybe fixing the child's relationship with their parent, with the other parent? This comes up less often, but it is important. Maybe your child would have a better relationship with the other parent if they spent less time with them. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it's not. Child has the right to have the best relationship possible with both parents. And sometimes having limited interaction with the one parent is the thing that will allow the child to maybe respect that parent a little bit. That's why a lot of times it takes a really strong mother to let a child go for adoption, stuff like that, to let a child be raised by a third parent. The parent knows that, you know what, you're better off having less interaction with me than more interaction with me. That's how I can show you I love you. And so sometimes that's the change that needs to happen, right? With the amount of time that they have with the other parent. Maybe the change is around just how we're going to choose extracurricular activities, because the one parent has them in 2 activities every single quarter. They won't agree with you that it's just too much, or they want you to pay half of the money or whatever. There's stuff, you know what I mean? And you can go and make these kinds of changes. There are some, anyway, there's a lot. So I don't want to get into the nitty gritty with that, but it's the point. What is really your goal? You want to go from this place to this place, right? From this place to this place. I'll be preparing kind of a checklist inventory of sorts for this, that hopefully I'll do another video. I'll maybe leave a link to where you can get it in the comments. I'm still learning some of this technology stuff here. So there's that. So that was step 1 is, right, is this actually a problem that can be solved by a parenting plan? Once we determine yes, we move on to step 2. So what are the goals? What are the actual outcomes that I'm looking to have happen when this plan is over, right? Do I just want more time with the kid? Do I want a different parenting arrangement? Like what is it that I need? What are the goals, right? Like, what is the actual goal? I'm going from a place here where this person pays child support, not half of expenses, and I want to go from I don't pay child support, but I do pay half of expenses, like whatever, right? Like where am I trying to go? And then last, you have to actually make the plan. The plan has to happen. And in order for the plan to become an order of the court, it has to get presented to the judge, and the judge has to agree to sign off on it. I don't care who you are, how smart you are, how right you are. If you are speaking Spanish and the judge only understands Italian, they're not going to understand what you're saying. They're not going to get you. And they're not then going to be able to sign off on your agreement and make it an order of the court. This is why you need the help of a lawyer, because lawyers speak judge. Ta-da! Let me tell you at least 1, if not 2, cautionary tales. So I had thought of this one earlier when we referred to a parent being in the military, right? So the setup is this couple did a do-it-yourself parenting plan. As they do, they use the forms off of the court and they check some boxes, and they just kind of say, yeah, he got the kid, she got the kid, while she's in the military, he got the kid. And it was just, then we'll talk about it some more later. Really? I mean, whatever court they were in, they signed off on that. And it's possible that a court here would sign off on that. I say here, like, you know what I mean? It's possible that your court would sign off on that. But it's doing a disservice to you. Because what she understood it to mean was that really the kid only lived with the dad while she was in the military, and that when she came back, the child would come with her. But the court read it as, no, there's no agreement on what happens when you come back, just that while you're gone, the kid stays with him. And since the kid's been with him, the kid's going to stay with him. I don't know what their actual agreement was, but I do know if they'd had the help of a lawyer who really talked them through and really write up what they meant, the document would be clear. She'd have been clear on what her rights were. And if in fact the child's father was just being, right, was violating the order, if the order said the kid was supposed to come with her and he didn't give it up, then you can go to the court and the court can have your back, right? The court can enforce the order. Hey, you can give them your kid. But if you got this old vague order that's not clear, the court couldn't get behind her. And then it was like, well, the kid's been with him and you agreed to let the kid stay with him. The kid stays with him. I mean, and that's kind of where that one is right now. She's really working against herself. And that's what happens when people sometimes are trying to save money and not talking to a lawyer and getting a lawyer. Now, don't get me wrong. For real, a real live custody battle from beginning to end is like an average of $10,000. And that's just an average. Some go more. Some come in less. But you know what I'm saying? I understand it to be an expensive endeavor. But can you put a price tag on some of the things that we're fighting about here, your kids' health and well-being? We'll talk about it. But the fact remains, sometimes it's not a story, it's a fact, right? $10 may as well be $10,000 if you ain't got it. If you ain't got it, you ain't got it. You ain't got it, you ain't got it. I understand that. And that's why one of the things that I offer is group coaching, right? So group coaching is where you can have the opportunity to learn from a lawyer, things to think about when you're doing your plan on your own. You can learn from a lawyer how to formulate the ideas, right? So that they're really conveyed in the writing. You can learn from a lawyer the right documents and what they mean when you are filing and trying to get this stuff done. And so it's an opportunity for you to represent yourself, but at least having consulted a lawyer. And you also get the opportunity to learn from the group think, right? Because that's the idea of the group coaching. So we can be learning from one another and you can be learning from me. And here's a way to get your parenting plan modified because you have a real problem, you have a real goal that the plan can solve, and now you're ready to get going with the court case, but you just don't necessarily have the money, not thousands of dollars. I mean, of course, you're still an investment, but you don't have $10,000. You can sign up with me for the group coaching. So continue to watch these live videos. If you know anybody who could learn from some of this information, please let them know that this video is here. Subscribe to the channel. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say here, but thanks. I am Christian Family Esquire. This is me talking to you about co-parenting during COVID. And the point is this: try to reach an agreement that's in the best interest of your child. That may mean setting up makeup time for one parent who's going to miss time. It may mean definitely setting up exclusive time to be communicating with your child virtually. If you simply cannot reach an agreement, the document rules, you should follow the plan as it's written. If the one parent refuses to follow the plan as it's written, you can go to court to enforce that order. That's called a contempt. Even if the person were to follow the plan as it was written, it'd still be a bad plan, then that's when you need the modification. And that's what we spend a lot of time talking about. And you get to go to court and ask the court to give you a new plan. I always hope that this information was valuable, that you learned a lot, and that you have a little more insight on how to co-parent during COVID-19. God bless.